Honorable members, I would like to call the second speaker, MEC Mohale, Free State.
Thank you very much, House Chair. Greetings to all members in the House. As a province of the Free State, we also like to thank this opportunity to come and share with the NCOP the work that we were doing insofar as the issues of township economy are concerned. Our presentation was sent through. I will speak to it, but I think the Secretariat can share it as and when they can or circulate to members. The first point, Chair, we need to appreciate that the time allocated was too little to can cover everything. So we tried to deal with matters only on the high level to try and cover almost part of what we need to share. And first, we reflect that we recognize that in terms of statistics, about 17% of the SA employment population comes from the informal economy or the so-called township economy. And the Free State, like all other parts of South Africa, its township economy also comprises of the formal and informal economies. And the township economy is a lifeline for many families who are not employed in the formal economy and those that are unable to participate in the mainstream economy. And while informal businesses typically do not contribute directly to the fiscus through taxes, they do provide livelihoods, employment, and income for approximately 2.5 million workers, of course, excluding the agriculture. And we recognize that in terms of the stats, that the informal economy contributes to an estimated 6% of the country's GDP. We'll not go into detail as to defining what is a township, but we understand that retail dominates the informal township economy, particularly on the spaza shops, food outlets, bakeries, shebins, hawkers, etc., which includes taxi operators, mechanics, and all those that are not in the formal economy, and the salons, etc. When we come to the challenges that are facing the township economy or the enterprises, firstly, we note their character, that it is mainly unregulated and it is relatively less protected by some of the legislation because some of the employees there do not benefit from, among others, the issues of minimum wages. And we find some of those that are not even able to benefit from some of the tax concessions that may be there because they are not even registered. But we further note that the enterprises are also vulnerable to crime and all sorts of problems that they encounter. But as a province of the Free State, Chair, we summarize the challenges and the characters of the township economy into the four main categories. One, we call it A to C, which is the problem of access to capacity, where you find most of the small businesses do not have the technical know-how and that necessary skill to run the business as well as the dynamics of that particular sector. And the second one is what we term A to F, which is the problem relating to access to finance. It's very difficult for them to access the finance because of the informal nature, most of them, and most of where they need to go and approach for help, they are required certain formalities like the bankable or the bank statements, the audited finances, and so on. And that makes it very difficult for them. Among other issues is the issue of bookkeeping and so on. The third one is the access to markets, particularly on the mainstream. We know that, Chair, that the small businesses or the township businesses, life is not that easy for them because how the response of the mainstream businesses is such that it created monopolies so that the small businesses or the township businesses remain there, but it must be very difficult for them to penetrate the mainstream economic activities. For an example, there are those ladies who have been on the roadside for decades and decades, but it's very difficult for them to can open a restaurant today because the rent is expensive. They don't have the technical know-how on the contracting and so on. But the fourth one, we made self-introspection and accept that part of the problems is us as government. Not that we do not have the programs, but the lack of coordination of all of this intervention across all the spheres of government, where you find all these good programs are not well coordinated to make one impactful. You will find that each sphere is doing its own thing correctly so. And part of those lack of coordination, one can make an example of the legislation, where you find the National Treasury promulgates certain legislation through PFMA, for an example, on supply chain, which seeks to empower the small businesses. But they're not in touch with the realities that are on the ground, because they are not interacting or they do not get sufficient voice of those players that are there in the particular space. And at the end of the day, you find that those interventions are actually very far-fetched or are not really practical to what is on the ground. And they end up being more problematic as opposed to be assisting. Once saying, Chair, as part of the Free State research, we have also undertaken some of researches piloting in Mangaung. I wouldn't want to bother the committee or the House with all of those. But I want to zoom directly, Chair, for the sake of time, on what is it that we are doing after characterizing all of this situation. We have our approach as the Free State, our provincial economic development strategy, which we call Value Chain Transformation Program. Now, at the center of this strategy is the program to grow and transform economic sectors in which township businesses are found. And the aim is to grow and ensure that all the township businesses are part of commodity value chains, especially in the mainstream economic activities. Now, with this objective, we're saying township businesses should not just operate as retailers to sell the products which they have not participated on. But our belief is that we need to transform the value chain of the township businesses. To make an example on the retail, we would want to see township businesses taking active role in the production of all of those commodities. We are doing all of this under the theme that we must consume whatever that we consume as a province should have been produced locally. But secondly, we are saying for the township business or economy to thrive, it needs to be protected against unfair competition and illicit trading. Our realization is that the reason some of the many township businesses have collapsed is because they could not be protected and they were taken out of business by those that are selling illicit goods, which are by far cheaper, and they've taken them out of business as a result. Now, we said part of our approach, we need to have two major approaches. One being to use the legislative power to address all of these issues that we have raised. And to that end, we have introduced Free State Integrated Local Economic Development and Transformation Bill, what is called as the Free State Township Economy Bill, which in the main, it will deal with the issues around the access to markets, where we will enforce big businesses to open opportunities to those small township businesses, particularly when they really want to do or have any relations with government, not only in terms of procurement, but in terms of other authorizations that they may need from government. Those big businesses has to demonstrate that they are indeed a part of this vision by creating opportunities. But we also say we need to leverage on the state procurement for enterprise development to address those monopolies that are there that makes it very difficult for businesses to access the markets. We are saying at least we do have a control as government out of our expenditure. The 7 billion budget on goods and services by the Free State government has been earmarked annually to say that if it can be used, at least we know we can keep 7 billion rand in the province and in the production of commodities. And that will, as a result, stimulate demand for local commodities. And as a result, there will be more demand for production and there will be more jobs that are created. And the bill further goes to say it needs to protect the township businesses where we are creating the quotas for certain sectors to be ring-fenced for locals, in this instance, the Free Staters. But we further go to an extent of regulating through this bill, the organized businesses, where we really need to ensure that we have one single dignified voice of the business so that the business voice is not hijacked by other ulterior motives, where when people are not happy with the tenders, they wake up, they call themselves a business forum, they go and disrupt. 2 months later, they are not there after they have bought the tender. So as a result, it makes the planning of government and working together with the private sector quite difficult because there's no consistency in terms of who the government is dealing with. But the second aspect beyond the legislative program is the support that we give to the business. I'll talk to it shortly. I've already spoken about the bill, which in the main targets certain business in the township, the salons, car washes. There's a range of up to 30 businesses, but which are mainly found in the township, where we say this should be reserved for the locals, or at least alternatively, certain quotas be made in favor of the locals, as opposed to the current scenario that is happening. The bill of the Free State does not seek to contest the Businesses Act, but it's out of realization that at the time when we came up with this bill a year or so, the Businesses Act in the current format, that was before we got the brief that the department is busy now amending it. But we thought that we could provide some norms and standards which will be in support of the legislative processes. For an example, the provision that requires all those that operate businesses to have operating license for municipalities. What our bill was just saying was just to give us the authority to provide norms and standards so that we can guide and give to the municipalities through or working together with COCTA for municipalities to follow. Because one of the issues currently is not necessarily that there is no framework that is in place, but the biggest problem that we're encountering is that there is no enforcement and there are no systems as to how do you go about. In most of the municipalities, people go and say they want businesses license. They tell them that they have no clue of where to start or how to issue it. So we're saying we will be complementary to that role of assisting municipality to have the norms and standards and package certain policies and guidelines for them. Now, the second aspect that I would like to talk to is around the issue of capacity. We do have, in the main, two broad support services that we give to township businesses. One is business development support to address the issue that I spoke about first, in which we are supporting the businesses by paying the basic services such as the accounting services, the marketing, and all those basic administrative services that are required to run a business. So we are paying these services for them. Currently, since last year, we are now having more than 314 businesses that have been enrolled into the program, so as to do the basics so that a person can know the discipline of bookkeeping and so on. But the second aspect which we have just introduced this year is what we call technical support service, because each sector is quite difficult and dynamic and different from the others. So we have procured the services of sector specialists for them to come and render this necessary advice to the businesses. Many of our people, if one may make an example, they have went into the oil and gas sector through the filling stations. They do not know how difficult it is, the compliance issues and so on. After a year or so, a person can't service the loan because the person thought it's quite easier, you can just put the tanks there and send fuel, but it's not aware about all the other hidden costs and all other dynamics and all the politics that are involved in there. So the sector specialist is to move with them from day one up until the business can thrive. That's what is under the technical support. But the third one, which we've just introduced to us, is that in 2020, we have launched a program to place the graduates into the businesses, particularly those that have studied commercial subjects and the relevant fields of study like engineering, depending on the business which we place them on. We started with the 60 in 2020 and then over a period of 24 months, where we take those that are unemployed, they work in the businesses, as opposed to the current practice where ordinarily we just take internship, they sit in the offices with us. We take them to be there on the cold face, practice that which they have done at the level of the university. Those that have done BCom accounting are now having an opportunity to do the books, bookkeeping, financials, trial balances, and so on for the respective businesses, but under the supervision of the experts, which we have also have them on our panel. So the youngsters are able to get the necessary assistance. At the same time, even the businesses benefit from those skills. But the program in the main is targeted at 1,000 graduates by 2024. We're quite grateful that the private sector, one of the banks, was able to also help us to pay the stipends for that first 60. And we have seen that many private sector players are coming on board to pay the stipends for these youngsters so that it can take off the burden from the provincial fiscal so that we can have more. And on the access to markets, Chair, for the enterprise, for the township enterprises, what we have done, we are facilitating township value chains network in which we are bringing the township businesses together, link them with the major producers, but who are in the main, those from the township. There are some of the businesses who are starting to produce. For an example, in the Free State, we have our own maize mill, which we are producing by a black farmer. So we're linking all of those small businesses so that they don't buy from these commonly known retailers, but they can buy from one of their own, which is black owned from the township. The transport we require, whoever that will be transporting there, should be a fellow a business person from the township. And those that we assist, we require them to use the professional services if they're outside our program. Those are the other ones from the township. So we're saying if you are operating a supermarket in the township, you must buy from a black producer who's producing the maize meal. The lawyer for your contracts, it must be someone who's operating from the township. The accountant must be that as well. So and so on with the other assets. So that's a part of the value chain network that we're assisting, and we have started with the retail. We're still building up to that particular network. And on the second aspect of access to markets, we're exposing our township businesses to the national and international platforms, which ordinarily they would not be able to access because of finances. This year only, we have taken them to the Big Five, South African International Trade Exhibition, which was now in June, where we've taken 12 enterprises. The manufacturing Indaba, still in June, they were taken there. The Decorex in August, Organic and Natural Expo Africa. But the other delegation is also going to go to Cuba next week to go and demonstrate their businesses. The other one that we are also working closely with the malls is a pop-up store, where we arrange with the malls that on the particular busy weekends, they allow a particular space for businesses to come and display their goods because of the feed and the purchasing power that the malls are able to attract. We have just now concluded processes that will not be only on certain weekends, given the feedback and the outcry from SMMEs that please arrange it for a longer period of time. So we're putting it on our budget that from next year that we will have in most of these key malls where there are a number of buyers accessing them, buy a particular space where small businesses can be able to access, and then the department pays it for them as one of those support services that they do. And the last one under product development is that we're supporting small developers or innovators, those that come with the new products, because it's very difficult to put a new product on the shelf of the well-known names. There are issues of accreditation, the quality, the packaging, and so on. So we have had good relations with SABS, where we also pay on behalf of all of these SMMEs. One of those products that one can make reference to is the plastic bricks that was innovated from the Free State. The ladies are now having the larger markets in Gauteng. We're the ones that went through them through the product development. The bricks are now accredited, made out of plastic and all of those commodities. But some of the key programs, if one can run quickly, is that we have targeted conventional textile industries, where we want to revive all of those factories in Malutiapo, and Mangaung, Botshabelo, Tabanchu, Harrismith, and Kwakwa, where we're putting together all of those cooperatives. But the key part about it is that we are now working with the big chain stores and those experts that knows the textile. We have also engaged with Lesotho to be part of the value chain that we are doing, because there's also a need for the factories of Lesotho to work with us for other reasons as part of some of the international agreements. They're unable to meet those demands. So we've been invited to form part of that code, and that's an opportunity that we have identified for our people so that they can get better prices when they sell to the market. And the second one around this is the fashion industry program, where we're targeting 100 designers each. We will launch it early next year or where possible before the end of this year, where we want to produce 100 fashion designers from the small town because they do have that capacity. The only issue there is that it is one market which is very lucrative, but it's very difficult because of the costs that are involved. So you said as a province, those that are able to be part, we should be able to help them so that they can also make it like all the other big names. 2 weeks ago, we had a meeting with some of the big players in the automotive sector, where we have started a process of trying not only develop the guys of the panel beaters to work on the roadside, but we want to see them be part of the mainstream, to form part of those panels of insurances, because that's where there is a guaranteed market. So we don't want our township economies to always be characterized by the markets which are less lucrative, whereas their counterparts can benefit from all of these opportunities. And the last one is our support to manufacturers as part of our industrialization process of producing local, while giving manufacturing incentives by giving them the free spaces in the FDC factory for a particular period of time. But we also support those that are in manufacturing, because we said we want to target the government expenditure. And the infrastructure budget of about 4 billion of the Free State provincial government per year, we said we want now to develop the producers. One of the examples that we can cite is that he's an emerging black industrialist, where we have helped him to buy a factory that produces all of this cement work that is needed in the major infrastructure project, so as to respond positively to the economic reconstruction and recovery plan, which says government must lead in investment in infrastructure investment. So we're beginning to position our people to take advantage of all of those opportunities. And lastly, Chair, to quickly summarize, is a program of the Stokvels. We see the Stokvels differently as a province of the Free State, because we believe that the essential part of the economy, the finance sector in itself, is the lifeblood of every economy. And the financial sector, as a matter of fact, they survive largely due to the contributions that the very same people in the townships are making. So we have a program under the Stokvels that say, make your money work for you, which is an initiative to support Stokvels. But our belief in the Stokvels is not just the current practice where the Stokvels have been turned into the bulk buyers. They buy a lot of goods at the end of the year, they share, they consume, and then there is nothing. We are now transforming the Stokvels to be the financial players to finance the very same small businesses. We have engaged the Financial Services Conduct Authority on the accreditation.
Chairperson, can I just, House Chairperson?
In which
Honorable Ngwenya.
Yes, Honorable Member.
Can I just check, is there a time limit given to each of the MECs? Because we still have a lot to go through today and have a period for question and answers as well. And I know your time is always working, but I suspect if you have a look at your time, the time limit is over already.
Honorable Member, my time here on the program, it doesn't correspond with the time that we have started, but don't worry about that, because I've got 4 provinces that are not going to do their presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, House Chair. I was saying the province is now working with the Financial Services Conduct Authority for a process in which the Stokvels can now be accredited to offer financial products. We no more want the providers of the financial products, such as the insurance, lending, and so on, to still be characterized by all of the normal mainstream providers. We are saying it's time that our people also play a role there. We have spent about 1 million rand to date since 2020 in supporting some of those that were organized so that they can get accreditation. One of them is selling various insurance products. From next year, we have also set aside money to get the asset managers so that they can deal with the issues of the investments for them, so that we get a credible asset managers, those that are accredited, to can also work on the JSE and all the other stock exchanges for the safety of the money of the stockpiles. We want, when we say we are creating our own economy, we should be totally independent as a township businesses from production of the commodities as well as financing of our activities. And lastly, Chair, let me just reflect that all of these programs that we are doing, there is a special focus on the township and rural enterprises, because we do not want small businesses to move from their respective areas and come to the large cities like Bloemfontein, Welkom, and so on. We want them to stay wherever they are and be able to revive their own economies. So we have had a program that we have launched this year where we're identifying the less known towns. For example, we went to small towns like Philippolis, Rosendal, Miemel, even the deep rural areas in Malutiapo, Makining, and so on. We're still going to others where we go and doing exactly that which I've provided. We go to an area, check who are the unemployed graduates. Those graduates of that area, they will be placed there and so on. Where are the businesses? We identify them, we assist them, they give all these opportunities that we're giving opportunities to the larger towns. And in conclusion, Chair, we were very grateful to the Minister or the Ministry of Small Businesses, together with the DTI and all the other partners, for having the state-of-the-art digital hub, which is very handy for small businesses, which was launched in April here in Botshabelo. It was one of those good initiatives that demonstrates that if all spheres of government work together, there can be something impactful that is done. We're also working with the DFIs now to create a growth fund for Free State where we'll match the funding so that we can address all these issues of funding for small businesses, which is a challenge. But one of the issues that we have started to do is now working practically with municipalities at the ward level to start profiling the businesses to address the issue of credible database, which we ordinarily do not have across all the spheres. So we want to have one database of all businesses. Okay. As I conclude, Chair, I must also indicate that CEDA and CIFA are one of those partners that make all of this work that is success, because we work together. But the Free State province is really geared up, Chair, to ensure that township economy is no more a slogan, but it's a catalyst to change the lives of the Free Staters. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Honorable Mohale. Honorable members, I would like to call Honorable Monama.